1987, Sega released Shinobi in the arcades and quickly ported it to a number of systems, including this copy here for the Sega Master System. Let's pop it in and see how it looks today. Alright, is it me, or is the ninja in the title screen a little cross-eyed? Now, Shinobi was a very popular game in the arcades, and in fact, the whole entire ninja fighting genre was gaining a lot of popularity in general. So it isn't a big surprise that a well-produced ninja game like Shinobi was very well received. And that being said, I must say that I was never a really big fan of Shinobi. It was a very interesting and good-looking game in the arcade, but I never really had Shinobi fever, if you catch my drift. But due to its popularity in the arcade, Sega was quick to turn around and port it to several different systems. And this version for the Master System, even though it's Sega's own system, is a bit different than the arcade, but that's because of general hardware limitations at the time of release. If you want a really true port of the arcade, you'll have to find it for the Japanese PC engine. That's a near identical arcade port. But for the Master System, some notable changes aside from graphics and color schemes is the addition of a life bar, which wasn't there in the arcade. In the arcade you had a one-hit, one-death type of scenario. And they did change the gameplay a bit. And in the arcade, your goal was to rescue all the children, which are those little red-suited people that you kind of kick off the screen when you touch them. In this version, you don't have to rescue any of the children. But that was the point and the crux of the entire plot in the original arcade. Now what you're looking at here is the bonus stage, and you have to hit the ninjas jumping at you with your throwing stars, and if they reach you, then the bonus stage is over, like that. In the arcade, that awarded you an extra life if you completed it. In this version, it awards you Ninja Magic, which is a special feature where you can, if you use your Ninja Magic, it'll kill every enemy on the screen, but you can only use it once per acquiring it. In the arcade, I believe you were awarded one Ninja Magic per level. You didn't have to earn them. At least that's what I can remember from the arcade. It's been a very long time since I've played the arcade version. Now, is it just me, or did Sega go with a pastel kind of color palette for this game? I mean, I think that most of the Master System games, the color palettes for the system were kind of lean towards the pastel hues, but this game just seems particularly Easter egg-like to me as far as the color palette. But the color palette choices for the game are just a minor complaint I have with the graphics. Otherwise, this game looks graphically pretty good for the Master System. Now let me talk a little bit about gameplay here. In Shinobi, you control that ninja walking around shooting stars and what have you, and his name is Joe Musashi. It's a pretty interesting name for a ninja, but anyhow, you control Joe, Ninja Joe I'll call him, and your goal is to rescue the kidnapped children from a criminal gang that kidnapped them. There's 5 criminal bosses, and they differentiate the 5 different levels that you play. This is the first boss at the end of level 1. And this guy is actually pretty difficult to beat. It took me a couple of runs to get through because I had a lot of trouble dodging his flames. You can't quite jump over them. You have to be in the right spot to duck under them. And I believe you have to hit him directly in the face a couple times to kill him. So even though the overall goal of Shinobi is to rescue all the captured children and defeat the bosses in the process, you can actually complete the levels and the game itself without rescuing any children, which is different than the arcade. In the arcade, you actually needed to rescue the children to advance. I'd also like to mention in the player control, You have two buttons on the Sega Master System joypad, and the one button controls your jumping, and the other button controls your ninja star or attack. If you're close, you can just attack without throwing a star, but that's determined by how far you are from the enemy, whether you throw a star or use a melee attack. And from what I understand, since there's no additional buttons on the control pad, using magic in this game is a little tricky. I had read somewhere that you have to hold down the attack button when you jump, and that will use your magic. But I've never actually acquired magic because I was never any good at that ninja star throwing bonus stage, and that's how you acquire magic. So I really don't know for sure how to use the magic in this game because I've never acquired it. And although most of the other controls in this game are pretty tight, beginning on stage 2, which is here, I found a little bit of difficulty in trying to jump up or down from the two different separated playing environments. There's kind of an upper and a lower playing environment, and you navigate between the two by either holding up or down on the control pad and hitting your jump button, and you'll either jump up to the upper playing environment or down to the lower one. But I kind of found it not functioning 100% as it should starting on this level. The first stage was fine, and anytime you wanted to go up to the upper level or lower level, it worked without a problem. But in this level I found it kind of temperamental. Now, as I said earlier, Shinobi was ported to a number of systems, and those systems include the Amiga computer, the Amstrad CPC, the Atari ST, Commodore 64, the NES, the Master System, which you see it on now, the ZX Spectrum, and the PC Engine. Now, the PC Engine is generally regarded as the closest to the arcade, and in fact it's a near identical port. The Master System is considered a very good port of the game, but not the best, and certainly not the worst. The NES version is actually regarded as one of the lesser quality ports of this game, which is surprising because the NES generally did very well with arcade ports of this era. But you could speculate that that was somewhat intentional on Sega's part, because the time this was released for the multiple systems, the Nintendo NES was Sega's main competition, and if they put out an inferior port of the game for the Nintendo, and actually a much better port for one of their own systems, it could appeal to gamers that the Sega system is actually a better system. But that's purely speculation. And that's the kind of thing you don't see in modern video games today. Like, can you imagine if Microsoft put out a version of Halo 3 for the PS3, and actually the version of Halo 3 was of lesser quality on the PS3 than it was the Xbox 360? It'd be along the same lines. Anyhow, Shinobi for the Sega Master System. Not the best game, not the worst. Certainly fun to play, though. I'm Dommie from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.